Hey everyone, so just wanted to kind of touch base here because most people, or at least most of our country, is in quarantine, and also like the Europe as well. So um, we know we have a lot of friends over there, but so I know a lot of you guys are having to stay in. So just want to be more accessible for everybody. So go ahead and feel free to ask questions at any time. We'll try to answer them. So, with that being said, so let's go ahead and answer the first question that we got. So this can be more of something we can kind of talk about. I can try to get some people's opinions on, and that is like how long does it take to be a catch wrestler? So in my opinion, or at least what I've seen online, some people try to make it seem like it's really quick and easy, um, but that is definitely not a really good way to look at it. It's sure we have a lot of different techniques, or even like say with regards to the submission aspect of catch wrestling, you can quickly break down things to its like quintessential form. So it's like say maybe in catch wrestling, yeah, we have variations of uh, like face locks or cross faces, right? So neck cranks. So all of these like face locks, cross faces, stuff like that, even full Nelson stuff, that all can be brought into like one category, right? So the neck cranks, right? But then we have different variations of arm locks, and I think all of those can be kind of like broken down and kind of categorized as one thing. So like double wrist lock, right? And then also a lot of the leg lock stuff, a lot of it can be seen as variations of a regular toe hold, right? So we have kind of like this push and pull aspect from the foot, from the ankle area. So whether it be a heel hook or a regular toe hold where you have your arms in that figure four position, it's really just variations of that. But with that being said, I mean, you can't really think that you can learn catch wrestling in just like a weekend or just in a few weeks or so. So that would be my opinion, because those like three submissions that I listed, those are kind of um, like the kind of the three main categories, but there's so many more nuances to that, more ways to set it up. And when we talk about setting it up, you set it up with your wrestling. So then that's a whole other aspect of the art of catch wrestling. So you got to be thinking of catch wrestling as like some kind of art, right? Um, so you want to be thinking of it like that. Like so, it's really similar to judo or jujitsu, um, you, like something that is like honed, an art that's like that you have to take your time to drill and practice. Like same thing like painting or any other type of art like dance or making music, anything like that. I think that's what you really want to be taking into consideration with regards to catch wrestling. So it's not just some kind of crazy or like it's not just crazy submissions. A lot of times it's based off of having real wrestling techniques or a real wrestling foundation, and uh, then you can set up a lot of your submissions. So like let's go ahead and talk about the wrestling aspect. Again, keep on asking your questions too because I can see them. Um, let's go ahead and check real quick. Take yeah, yeah. So that's the thing. So the thing is Matt. Um, so thanks for watching, guys. Also, but yeah, I agree because like it's already been it's kind of been percolating right now where it's like you'll see some of these high level grapplers mention, right, they personally aren't wrestlers, and that's kind of one of the things they say, like, I'm not so good at wrestling, but from what I know, I think that the next big thing is going to come out of wrestling. And so with that being said, like, still I would believe that catch wrestling itself would still be a little bit separate. So like when people nowadays, or like say like I mentioned like the big grapplers, when they mention wrestling, so like that quote unquote wrestling aspect, um, at least in my mind, what they what in my opinion what they seem to be alluding to would be like what we would call amateur wrestling, right? So that's like what we see in freestyle, folk style, a lot of these different other styles, which are officially wrestling, but it's not necessarily catch wrestling, right? Because we have both the the submission mixed in with the wrestling. That's kind of the main difference. Where um, we shouldn't, and I think we don't have the point system, but we also um, should never add that, I think, because then again that changes the game. But anyway, let's go back to the main point. So yeah, a lot of big time grapplers um, have been saying for a while now that wrestling is going to have, or like some like the next big thing is going to come out of wrestling. But in my opinion, it would be like, yes, that's probable, because we were kind of seeing that where it's like guys who are good at amateur wrestling, they're doing really well, like especially like say doing really well in ADCC, right? But um, truly, if someone were really well versed in catch wrestling, where it's we have that like that perfect blend of the wrestling and the submission, then I think that's the real key there, right? So basically, we just need to keep it up. Keep so like if you guys have any questions, or you can, especially now that everyone's in quarantine, right? So just if like go ahead and ask away. We can try to make some special videos for like with regards to techniques, or when you guys are stuck with anything. Um, Let me see. Legit catch wrestlers. Well, I mean, we've been working a lot with Anthony Pachek out in he is in Iowa. If that's where you're nearby. Sorry, I didn't catch your name. It kind of faded away. Whoever asked about that. So like Iowa in particular, we got Anthony Pachek, who's been working really hard with us, really to improve the authentic catch wrestling aspect to his grappling game, and he's also had a few pro grappling matches. Unfortunately, yeah, it's like nothing's going on nowadays, at least for probably for the next few months, right? Um, yeah, Ian Jones is a really great guy. Thanks for bringing that up, Greg. Um, so uh, yeah, but again, Ian Jones is not in the Midwest. He's out in England. Um, but yeah, if anybody's up by his way, go ahead and check him out. Go train with him. Um, so I don't know anybody in Wisconsin or Illinois. So we got to try to. That's why we need you guys to kind of train and learn some of the fundamentals, and at least you guys can start doing some kind of almost like your own, at least your own training group. That's the thing. No, nothing in Hawaii. Sorry about that. As I mean, I'm in Los Angeles. It's really easy to go out to Hawaii. So, like, have me out. That'd be great. Actually, my sister lives in Hawaii already, so I have a place to stay. Um, so let me see. Any other questions? Yeah, catch wrestling does have a rich history, and that was the thing. Like, I think even back in those early days, like in the 1800s and early 1900s, I mean, people were still, like thrill seekers. So people would still travel to like go have a match against like some of the best guys in the world. So yeah, there was some of that intermixing between the Japanese and the British a long time ago. So yeah, there was, according to my understanding, yeah, it was very early catch wrestling, still emphasized the pin, but they integrated more of the submissions after their matches against other styles, especially like with against the Japanese. So yeah, and also too, that's the thing. Like there was always martial arts and martial arts competitions, even back in the early like all throughout human history, really. So say if you want to go back to the United States history. Um, People often mention having like different wrestling matches. Yeah, so even uh, there were varied rules matches, and there was actually a lot of different styles, and some styles that really don't exist nowadays, that have kind of faded from history, or maybe been absorbed a little bit into the more dominant styles like catch wrestling. Um, so there were a wide variety of rules. So then that's why later they had to kind of develop a system or a system of rules that were actually very simple. Pinner submission, no time limit, and that's what later on, like say Frank Gotch, um, called the code of catch wrestling. So he was doing a lot of different grappling matches before he met Farmer Burns, and then after Burns kind of taught him the code. That's what they ended up calling it. But those are like the main rules that uh, were obliged or like were obeyed for professional catch wrestling. All right, so yeah, so I going back to one of our original points was like I agree that there are or like the next big thing is going to be coming out of catch wrestling. In particular, I do believe that just regular wrestling or amateur wrestling just isn't well rounded enough. So we're seeing say like Pat Downey do well, or but yeah, still, I mean, he's claimed that he twisted his ankle or something. That's why he submitted to that power half or whatever. Um, but I think that kind of goes with my point. So it's not just him, but we also have Ed Ruth uh, competing in Nogi Worlds, and I don't think he even placed. So it's like we got to get um, people to like wrestlers or whatever, like more well rounded. Let's try to see if we can get some more of your comments here. Really, the so Frankie was the best book to see all the catch wrestling submissions. Really, it is a like kind of like what I mentioned right at the beginning, where it's like you got to break down the each submission into a certain category. So you have to understand the principle. So say like in for kind of like for a double wrist lock and for a toe hold, you're gonna see this type of push pull action. Now I kind of wish I had someone with me right now, but so you can see like imagine so double wrist locks. You have the wrist, right, and then you have your arm around their elbow, and then you grab your own wrist as well, right? So you're having kind of like with this arm you're pulling the person in, and with your hands you're pushing away. Same idea with the toe hold, and so then if you take that principle, it's really the same idea when you're going for a heel hook, right? So you're gonna have the person's foot here, right? You're gonna have the heel. So quite often, you'll see like you get like the little more narrow part of the bone under the ankle area, and truly, so when you got the foot here, you still want to be kind of going like bringing your shoulders down, right? So you're getting the shoulders down. That's kind of doing the push action of the of this kind of double wrist lock, a figure four hold, right? And then as you do like the heel hook motion on the foot, that's kind of the pull, right? So it's like the push pull. It's always going to be there, right? So you want to be thinking in those line or that way. So like thinking of the principles, and then when you find yourself in like a wide variety of wrestling positions, you'll be able to pull off these uh, like crazy looking submissions that maybe you've seen in like some of our old black and white photos from the early 1900s. Um, and yeah, actually, someone mentioned about how to become or how to work with us a little bit more. Yeah, so go ahead and let me know what your thoughts are, because what I did was I made two fundamentals courses. So one is like stand up techniques, and then the other one is ground fundamentals. And so we put that up on a Thinkific website where what I'd want to know is that you go through all the different lessons, and then you give me a video of you doing it, just so I can see that you understand it, and then you could be like affiliated with us. So let me know if that kind of works for you, because basically we don't how I just started this video where it's like we're talking about can you learn catch wrestling quickly. I don't think you can really learn it quickly. I think you do have to go through um, like learning a lot of the a lot of the wrestling fundamentals, plus how to mix them with the submissions, and plus like the submission fundamentals, right? So let us know how we can kind of better work with you so that you can work with us, because yeah, a lot of you guys are asking that. So I thought maybe the the e-courses were going to be easy. A few people did sign up and a few people did complete that. And maybe we can, what I'll try to do is try to get like their locations and put those out for you so you guys can at least maybe try to work for that. Oh, thanks Johan for checking our channel out and liking our channel. Yeah, we really do this for the love of the actual sport. We're trying to keep real wrestling alive. Um, so yeah, but let us know like how we can better work together, especially now that we're all in quarantine here. So now is the time we can kind of chat and like try to find solutions together, because we have a great sport here, and we know that um, there is like there is a way to really like have the next big thing come out of catch wrestling. Um, yeah, yeah, that's right. BJJ hardly invented it, right? So yeah, it only hasn't been around that, like jiu-jitsu hasn't been around as long, or Brazilian jiu-jitsu, right? Um, yeah, yeah. If you're also in the Carolina area, you definitely want to check out John Strickland in South Carolina. Um, uh, yeah, the chokes and stuff you can actually find in a lot of the old catch wrestling books. You'll find pictures of them demonstrating chokes. A lot of times, if you read the actual text though, they'll mention that yes, this is considered a little bit more for self defense and not um, part of professional catch wrestling. So that's part of that. So like a lot of these books were kind of more well rounded. I mean, you'll find some that even have like techniques against guns or knives and stuff like that. So um, it, catch wrestling itself, like the fundamentals, were always considered like something that you can do for self defense as well. Um, yeah, if you guys are still interested, yeah, definitely like if you guys are still interested in trying to work together, yeah, just maybe like send us an email, or yeah, or I'll still look through the comments and stuff, or just try to find a way to get in touch. You can also email through our website. You can, I believe, at the bottom there's like an email thing that you can send us a message directly. Um, yeah, yeah, Boston crab. I mean, that's like these things, these things that have like a legitimate like foundation, right? So um, you can. That's why you do see them occasionally happen in MMA, and I think the reason why it only occasionally happens is because a lot of people think it's fake, right? So they don't ever try for it, right? So jiu-jitsu's just dominated so much in the ground grappling game, so a lot of people um, think that yeah, you can't do a lot of these things that are considered just pro wrestling stuff. But you got to remember that a lot of the pro wrestling stuff came from legitimate catch wrestling moves that are, like I said, legitimate, right? So um, that's the thing. I mean, we have like a long, rich history that has just been so distorted over the decades, right? And so then what you'll have is like a bunch of different things happened. Not only did World War One kind of distort a lot of things, where it's like a lot of people just had to focus on that, right? Because it was a major thing that happened to our country. Um, so uh, beyond that, though, the Olympics, they started the modern Olympics again, and what was called amateur catch as catch can was one of the two styles of wrestling that were added there, but right away they banned the submissions and then added more and more and more rules, changed the name from amateur catch as catch can to freestyle, and that's what you have today with freestyle. So you have a lot of people who want to learn, or at least want to compete in the Olympics. So I think that was a major blow for catch wrestling, where it's like they'll wrestle and practice um, any rules that will get them that chance to win that Olympic gold medal, which is it's wonderful. It's a wonderful achievement just in itself, but it hurt us, right? So and it continues to hurt us really because like for a few years in a row, I would go to the NCAA wrestling finals, right? Different parts of the country, and like these venues were packed, right, for the NCAA wrestling finals. So this is folk style wrestling. So if anybody's watching from internationally, so our wrestling is a little bit different. It looks really similar to um, very similar to freestyle, but you'll see us go into what's called referee's position a lot. So it'll be a little bit more on hands and knees. Um, so that's kind of the main difference, and it resembles catch wrestling a little bit more than freestyle does because there's no like that parterre stuff where you're just lying flat trying to keep someone from picking you up and roll you over. Uh, but yeah, a lot of these people they either didn't know or they never heard of catch wrestling, um, and when you so it would, they have this whole thing where you kind of have to introduce it to them, right? And then when you do the introduction, and then they're interested, and they think it's cool and all, but then they're there for the the folk style stuff. So then and because it folk style today is a lot different from like back in the 1930s. You could still like back then. You could still get that figure four position. Try to get like that double wrist lock, throw someone over onto their back. A lot of these things are much different today. They have the whole stalling rule, so I think that kind of takes away a little bit of that whole wrestling aspect, where it's like, yeah, if you do get uh, thrown underneath, you still have the chance to fight up to get out. Um, a lot of these things are just shortened and shortened with the time limit, um, so that kind of distorts the whole idea of wrestling. So that's why, or that's another reason why I believe that um, the catch wrestling still has that edge because we're still cognizant of the submissions, right? Like some that would get thrown at you if you compete in jujitsu, but then you're still like you don't have that, like you don't have the ref to save you. You don't have these rules that could potentially save you, right? So like stalling or different things like that, where potentially a ref can restand you up, or yeah. So it, in that, and again in that way it makes catch wrestling seem still kind of a little bit more closer to a real self-defense style as well. So I've always thought that catch wrestling was a really good base for martial arts. If you want to know like the kickboxing style that I think is also a really good base that people will like, disagree with me about, that I think Chinese kickboxing is also a really good fundamental base for self defense because it has a wrestling. It has a lot of takedowns, right? So that's why I think it's a good foundational style. Let me see. Who missed a chance to train with Billy Robinson? I guess everyone who didn't train with him before he passed away, right? Um, yeah, he's a great guy. Actually, speaking of Billy Robinson, oh, you can't see. Might as well show you this. Right, so here I am with Billy many years ago. See, Meteor Man. All right. Well, sorry you missed your chance. Yeah, he was a really great guy. I ended up going to visit him in his home in Little Rock, Arkansas, before he passed away. So I trained with him privately, and yeah, we can talk about that if you guys want. He he even cooked some a special French onion soup for me because he says he knows how to cook it the best. So um, yeah, he's a great guy, and I can't say enough good things about him, and has spent a lot of quality time talking with him, privately and stuff. So he'll always be in my heart. Oh, let's actually make sure that his picture is here. There's a bird talking about him, and he influenced a lot of my good friends too, like Osamu Matsunami and in Kyoto, Japan. Um, yeah. So let me see, what are these? Oh, what's the name of the Chinese kickboxing? It's called Sanda or Sansho. If you guys watch One Championship, those MMA fights, more and more people who actually are winning their divisions, right? So winning the championships in their different weight divisions from the men and women are coming from Sanda backgrounds, right? So their whole thing is kick, punch, and takedown, right? So no, it doesn't have jackets. They don't wear jackets. Um, and so, but yeah, so it's kind of similar to Muay Thai, but they're not really going to. Yeah, yeah. It does. Okay, so I'll answer that question right now. But let me see. Yeah, so it's like Muay Thai with takedown, with a lot more wrestling aspects. Would I consider 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu a BJJ form or catch wrestling? I do it and catch as catch can. I think there's some catch wrestling. Yes, there is some catch wrestling origins into it. I mean, that's the whole idea where Eddie Bravo took the wrestling technique, the wrestling pin, right? The the guillotine that we call guillotine, and he made a whole system. He renamed it the Twister, and he he just skyrocketed, right? Trying to blend some of the like folk style that he learned and blend it with some of the jujitsu that he ended up learning, and then also he didn't really want to emphasize or like they did not emphasize, but I mean he said if you guys are going to be fighting like doing MMA and all that, it's like you're not going to be wearing a gi, so let's do no gi. I also work out at a 10th Planet gym here at 10th Planet West LA. And I personally really like the attitude. I've been to different jujitsu schools, and from really some really famous ones. And I don't know if you guys are a fan of my channel. I was also at a Cabrini place for a few years. But I personally really like the whole mindset of 10th Planet. Um, I I wouldn't agree that it's actually catch wrestling, but it's one of the closer jujitsu styles to catch wrestling. I mean, you're still gonna have a lot of stuff on your back that you wouldn't do in catch wrestling, um, but I really liked, or I still really like the attitude. I mean, I still train there, so um, like they're much more open to say like a lot of the catch wrestling techniques. A lot of times they're not going to be complaining. At least in my experience, they're not complaining about some of the a little more painful stuff um, um, that catch wrestling does. A lot of times they think like, oh well, this kind of hurts, so I want to try to find a way to counter this, like using their jujitsu frame of reference, right? Um, so that being said, yeah, I really enjoy it. I also teach at an MMA school here in Los Angeles called Fight Science MMA, and so they seem to like their main emphasis is MMA. So like they really love catch wrestling as well because I mean a lot of our stuff is legal in MMA, so they're all about that. So as opposed to maybe just doing a traditional like jujitsu style, right? Yeah, I hope Billy Robbins doesn't like me. uh, yeah, no, no, he was an awesome guy, and like he treated me very well. Um, yeah, I was really uh, lucky to spend that much time, and a lot of the private conversations we had really influenced my coaching as well. Yeah, yeah, still really. Yeah, he was still someone commented he was still dangerous in those older days too. Yeah, like I remember he would harpoon me with his cane when we were training in Arkansas, right? So he would really focus on like having me roll like with an opponent. So he arranged opponents for me to train with, and then um, he would actually be standing right next to us when we were rolling, and then if I was moving the wrong way, then he would like harpoon me with his cane, so I would do the move right. Um, yeah, 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 yeah. Cool. So let me see some more of your guys' questions. I'll try to scroll down a little bit. Let's see what we got. I'll have to check out that book. Someone asked about Earl Lederman. I'll see if we can't. So I do have some of the older books as well. I'll try to look that one up, and then maybe do a different video. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, someone's mentioning the Chinese wrestling. Yeah, Chinese wrestling. Um, th- there's a little bit of a mix up of the nomenclature though. So, China, like the jacket wrestling they do in China, for shorthand, it's called shuaijiao, right? So, um, but shuaijiao is the name for wrestling in Chinese, in Mandarin. So, what they do is really similar to judo, but they have a short sleeve jacket. Um, Let me see. But a lot of times you would call that traditional Chinese wrestling. So they have to mention that style in particular. It could be Chinese style, so 中国式摔跤 or 传统摔跤, so traditional Chinese wrestling. But in different areas of China also have their traditional styles. Like last year, if you guys are following my channel, I went to Yunnan province in China where they have their own traditional wrestling history, and that is really closer to freestyle. I liked it because either you like basically your guys would go shirtless, um, you would wear like a belt, right, and you basically go continuously until you pin someone. Um, so actually, I like that a lot better than regular freestyle, right? Because you have all these rules and points and stuff. So back in Yunnan province, there's points, but unfortunately, there's no submissions either. But you really they focus on pinning. I believe there was about a 6 minute time limit, but I think like the semifinals and finals, they would let you go until someone wins. Um, yeah, because I think I remember the early matches because I ended up competing in one of their tournaments, and yeah, the early ones seemed to like well, I pinned a bunch of people early, and then but I think they had shorter limits, and then they just let you like when you get to the end, everyone's harder, right? Everyone's better, so I think they would let those go longer. All right, let me see some more of your questions here. Cool. I'll have to check my some because I have several different books, and even one from Finland. Like, as you guys know, that there was a Finnish wrestler who spent some time wrestling in Canada and northern United States, but then went back to train at Wigan, and then he ended up helping Billy Riley. So Billy Robinson's coach, Billy Riley. Um, so he was one of the kind of training partners of Billy Riley, and Billy Riley really spoke highly of this Finnish wrestler named Vaino Kettunen. So um, I do have a Finnish wrestling book that maybe we'll try to talk about that one next time. But I'll look at some of the other ones. I've been able to collect quite a few of the older ones. All right. So you guys have any other questions? I All right, so going back to my original point, yeah, I don't think you can learn catch wrestling too quickly. I mean, there's a lot of the fundamental wrestling aspects um, that you do need to know, and you have to learn the fundamental aspects of the submission holds as well. So, but once you learn these principles, then you can you can be uh, like pretty comfortable regardless of who you're up against. And that's the other thing, the mental aspect, right? You gotta kind of believe in your techniques and then try to be calm, right? Uh, yeah, you have to get on the mat and roll. Yeah, yeah. You kind of get beat up a lot. Um, Let me see. What are these? What are some of your other questions? Uh, Just scroll around here. Um, there's one question that I just read it, but oh man, where did it go? Oh, thanks for liking my teaching style. Yeah, actually, my teaching style is really like I mentioned Billy Robinson earlier. He told me that I should really focus on teaching the ground stuff first, even before takedowns, because if you start teaching someone takedowns from the beginning, and then say maybe they get really good at taking people down, but they don't know what to do once they're on the ground, and then if they get reversed or countered or whatever, then they're gonna feel like they lack confidence, and so then that's going to psychologically get them to not want to go in for a takedown later. So it's really good to get the whole like the ground stuff in wrestling and catch wrestling. We call it mat wrestling. So you want to really focus on the mat wrestling and um, first, or at least focus on that the most, and then you can go on for takedowns. And then and I guess that can lead me to another idea where it's like um, the takedown itself, right? Don't necessarily avoid uh, the takedown or getting taken down. That's another thing. Um, in catch wrestling, yeah, again, it's not points. So, like, say judo and the amateur wrestling stuff, yeah, you can win right by taking someone down over and over. Um, yeah, yeah. I was like Kern Jacobs' catch wrestling coach. But anyway, going back to the whole takedown thing, right? So I think that's the other thing that kind of changed over the years, where um, you because of all these points and stuff, and you can win just by taking someone down over and over again, then you get people who are like all constantly trying to block your takedown. Right? So um, that's a problem. That's not catch wrestling, right? So you got to just go in there. That'd be the difference, right? So you got to know that mat wrestling, and then who cares if they take you down? Because a lot of times, like, uh, it's fine, right? If your mat wrestling is real good, hey, take me down. Let's get there, right? That's the other thing. Unless maybe you're really good at grommets or like the front face locks or whatever, then that's another aspect, right? That you can kind of consider. All right, so um, yeah, thank you for even on the comments below or any of our social media, um, and so then we can maybe try to do this more regularly. Like, so especially since we're all in quarantine right now. So I think I'll go ahead and end it here. All right. So thank you for watching.